Guys, thank you very much. We are now doing debate on everything. The only one that's not in order, so to speak, is the one you see on the screen, which is number 39, which is Yanni's and Andre's. Then we are going to debate everything from number 21 on page 13. It's the first one. It's called Greening the East. It was Jake's. And we go all the way down to page 21, which that is the last one, which was the street art program. So that's what we're debating at the moment. Okay? Who would like to go first? Right, I'll put it.
We vote one by one.
We're just going. So we're not going to debate.
Parks
Well, you
and
can if you want.
community. Parks and community.
Yeah. Debate, is it? Now, just because one person wants to debate doesn't mean to say we all have to. Don't feel left out. That Sarah's keen to do it, so I'm not saying she shouldn't.
Kia ora
Anyway.
koutou. Just a quick point that while the core infrastructure that we are going to debate next, even though we've talked about it first, of our transport and water and things, is the foundation on which our city operates. It's actually the people that are the heart of our city. It's people that make it a city, the fact that there are lots of people here. And so that's why these particular amendments are really important. They talk to how our people experience the city. It's these things that make people happy about our city. And so that's why I'm pleased to be able to support so many of them today. I think one of the things that we haven't discussed, because it's actually in there, but it's had kind of no visibility throughout the whole process, but I'm really stoked to highlight, is that part of this LTP builds on the removal of library fines a couple of years ago, and actually removes hold fees as an equity piece across the city, so that those in poorer areas of the city are able to request books at the same rate that those in the wealthier areas of the city can. So hold fees are going, great thing, and happy to support quite a few, but probably not all of the amendments here today.
Okie doke. Righto. Oh, Jake.
Thanks. I'm happy to debate item Amendment 21 in my name, Greening the East. So this was a project, many of you won't be familiar with it, started by the late Sally Buck, and she had a vision that actually a really desolate area of Linwood should be green and have trees and have the same visual and green infrastructure that other parts of the city do. She was like a dog with a bone, and she didn't let it go, and finally with some good work from that community board and some determination from John Fussell as well, some money was put on budget to truly green that part of town, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough, and so my amendment seeks to rectify that, top up that budget, and I think that in doing so we will be able to, we've got ambitious targets around tree planting, and we've got a program that's already in place, and we could stop it halfway through, or we could say while we're actually out planting those trees and building those tree pits, finish off the original vision, and rather than come back in a few years and redesign. So that's it from me.
Yeah, I just want to highlight two things. The skate park, the vert ramp, I thought that was an excellent presentation that the young man came in and did. I think it will activate that space and give us an opportunity to have competitions that we weren't able to have before. And I just wanted to also highlight the street art group that came in. I think this will make a real difference in our city. We're sort of globally recognised for our urban creativity already, and this is art for all people, not just those people who might go into an art gallery, and it's going to expose our city to or the art in our city to a much greater audience. It's uplifting, it's inspiring, and it can be very surprising, and I think, you know, street art is change. It's art for young people, it's art for old people, and it's an opportunity for us to shout to the rest of the world that we're innovative and they already know that that this city is beautiful and it's changing and it's growing and it's becoming a better place for young people. And I think this will really cement that. And there could be a few tourist dollars in it for us. So I'm really excited that you guys are considering it, and I hope you will support that particular amendment. Cheers.
Thank you. A little frustrated, I think, would be the way I'd describe where I'm at with a lot of these, particularly with the fact that we've created an environmental partnerships fund, and yet there's a lot of rats and mice line items that we're trying to bring back that this fund, I think, was designed to cover. So I think I'll struggle to support a lot of those. I will be happy to support my colleague, Councillor Moore, in the dog park. That's been our focus of the Southwest and with our community board for as long as I've been on the board, and to see that progressing with some advice from staff, I think is a great move forward, and hopefully we can get some go forward to just start realising the dream for that part of town. Also happy to look at supporting Councillor Barber with that street art. I think the way that's been reframed from the Capital Endowment Fund, I think is that magic fund that keeps paying for us. Be interesting to see where that's at the end of this process, but I think that's better than robbing Peter to pay Paul. Happy to support that. Had an interesting thought regarding the Allendale Hall, and I wonder if that's something going forward that we could look at potentially passing into community ownership, similar to what we've done with the Aldhurst Memorial, where they've been then enabled to get in and do it themselves. So whether the community out there has got any appetite or thought for that, like they did with their jetty. So let's see if that advice can come back on that, I guess. But yeah, let's move forward and look at where we go with some of these amendments.
Thank you. You're just noting, so I did withdraw the Cunningham House building renewals. It was the amendment was put forward to basically get advice, but it doesn't really work out to be a saving in the grand scheme of things as it was intended. So has indeed been removed. Just speaking very briefly on a dog park. So all this commits us to is getting staff advice on what the options are. Community have been asking for it for years. It's been a board priority for 5 years. It'd be good to know where we stand, what potential sites could be, what the potential cost is, and go from there. Thousands of new homes in the area, so this is the perfect kind of project that development contributions can go ahead and fund rather than having a rating impact. That's the kind of reason they are paid. We've got all of these wetland areas around the area that people bring their dogs to because they lack areas to bring them to. And the dogs in wetlands are not a good mix. Dogs being let off leashes around wetlands, we can't enforce every area. So just to erect a fence somewhere to serve the Hornby, Wigram, Halsey area makes a lot of sense. I can't see it being too expensive. And it would get a huge amount of use and be very good bang for buck and a great use of development contributions.
Thank you. Just on two items. First of all, Enviro schools. My kids are now 23 and 25. They started at preschool, and to see that generation really starting to lead, and they've been drummed into them about the environment, etc., is outstanding. So something that is so important to start those journeys and that knowledge from such a young age is really important. So I'm glad Celeste brought that up, and I'm happy to support, as I think I seconded or moved it, or whatever it was. The other one, the screen production item. I'm just really concerned about the process. I don't have a problem with supporting it in the sense of putting funding into it, but I do need, I think, to sit down with C&Z and understand the environment we're in, because if the university is going to put $131 million into a project, and then that project expects ratepayers to supply and to try and help employ, I can't see why ARA wouldn't be doing that with government funding for them in event management. You know, every class there has 36 event managers or possible event managers. Are we going to increase for those? You just can't do it, and I need to know what what the journey is to ensure that we're going to get production, post-production, the pre-production here in Christchurch, and that's what to get funding and then go to Southland or Lakes District or the North Island, whatever it is, just, they may as well just have some bankers. So I'm just a bit confused about that one.
Kia ora koutou. I'll get straight into it. For Whanenui, the facility has long served as a vital community hub, and it offers multiple sports and it fosters connections for generations. And in 2021, when it was facing closure due to earthquake damage and the impending Parikiori pool construction, which has now been pushed out for years to come, God knows when that's going to be done, I am actually happy to look for advice, but I would like to highlight to staff that my full intention is for everything to come to us in the next annual plan. Reason being is we've already had previous advice for every single facet of Whanenui pool. We know everything. All we need advice on now is how much money are we willing to put into this in FY26. So that there is just the first highlight for staff. I just want to also remind the council and the city that Whanenui isn't just a sports centre. It's a lifeline for the community in central Riccarton. For something that is the busiest, it has the busiest hub outside of the CBD in the city. It also is what people call a concrete jungle. Having something like that would be extremely beneficial for the Riccarton community. It provides access for skilled children and offers below market rate swimming lessons. It also benefits disabled, Pasifika and Māori communities within the area. And actually this year, it's actually nurtured 3 Olympians already. And there is going to be more Olympians in the future. In the past, it's also had some substantial, awesome swimming athletes across the board. The next thing I want to talk about is Andre's dog park amendment, Councillor Moore's dog park amendment, and that is something I'm really supportive of. He's been long advocating for it. The board's been long advocating for it, so I'm willing to support that too. Also willing to support Councillor McClellan and Johansson's skate park provision. That sounds like an awesome thing, and as a youth portfolio holder, I would probably be not doing my due diligence if I wasn't supporting that. I would also like to commend Councillor Donovan, actually through her advocacy for environmental action. It's actually really brave to be able to put that on a financial year that is actually a really big rates and heights rake. She's willing to front that and face up when a lot of us actually were worried about our own patch. And for me, I feel like that's actually really, really good of Councillor Donovan to do that. I'd also like to commend Councillor Fields around not just his selfies on Facebook, but he actually is always active in Banks Peninsula, and the amendments show that. So when we actually start criticising, and we're not doing that right now, but criticising our colleagues for putting all of these amendments, what that shows is it shows that they're out there, they're talking to the community, and they're trying to advocate the best they can. They're not going to win everything, they're not going to lose everything, but at least what they're doing is being active and engaging. And I would also like to provisionally support Councillor Barber's street art amendment. That sounds like a pretty cool vision for the city. The image of the city at the moment seem to be a bit bland from outsiders, but also, on a positive note, the city of Christchurch is probably the #1 city in New Zealand from what many people think so. So advising on that, I'm pretty happy to support that. Nō reira, kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. I just want to, and thank you for those kind words, Councillor Harrison Hunt. So where do I want to start on this? So I want to just speak in defence of a couple of the things that I've put up as amendments, particularly in the pest-free space. So I think that throughout this, and I have put up a lot of amendments because there are a lot of groups actively working in Banks Peninsula, but I think I've been really, really willing to compromise throughout this process to be able to push things into the Environmental Partnership Fund. But I have asked for a couple of things over and above that, particularly with regards to the eradication of pests on Banks Peninsula. That's around feral pigs, and that's around just the eradication of pests in general, stoats, weasels, you name it. All of those things, right? Yeah. So, people go out of Banks Peninsula, landowners, off their own bat, they put in hours and hours of time and their own money, trapping everything you can imagine to be able to clear Banks Peninsula of pests, and that is in response to a government program that was set up under the Key government to have let's have a vision for a pest-free New Zealand, predator-free New Zealand. And so we're actually going out and doing that stuff on Banks Peninsula, right? So, okay, yes, the Environment Partnership Fund has been significantly expanded during this, during these deliberations, but that's really just a drop in the ocean compared to some of the other things that we spend money on. And we really need to be able to look forward into the future to how are we actually going to remove pests from Waitaha, Canterbury as well. So we've got to sort of start thinking about that. If we keep pushing everything into the Environment Partnership Fund, and I'm going to invoke Taylor Swift for the second time today, which is to say that it's going to be more oversubscribed than a Taylor Swift concert at the MCG, because we really need to sort of think bigger than that, and we're only sort of and we get so much bang for our buck out of the money that we invest in pest-free Banks Peninsula. What else do I want to say on that? So, just to say that there's a fund for that and then turn around and say, oh, we're going to, but I'm happy to support street art to the value of $300K, which is half of the value of the Environment Partnership Fund, is really defies belief for me, because this is a nobody supports street art more than me. And I invite you to come around to my house to see how much of my own money I have put into street art over the years. So I'm really happy to support street art, but I'd also really happy to support the removal of pests and predators on Banks Peninsula as well. So I just wanted to say my piece there. Thank you.
Melanie.
I mainly just wanted to speak to Celeste's Banks Peninsula Pest Management one about the feral pigs, just because I know from my experience on the Summit Road Society that to get rid of the last few pigs in an area is actually extremely difficult. They have to set up cages with automatic closure with cameras, and then people it's a much more complicated thing than just running around trying to shoot the last few. Yeah, and they've been trying to do that with deer in Omahu actually as well, and spent 3 days and not got any, knowing there are some there. So it's not an easy task. So money to get the last few animals in a pest eradication program is extremely important and well spent. I want to support Andre's Dog Park, and actually probably most of these, and also the Enviro Schools. I'll just pick those ones out. But I just wanted to explain that because it's not as easy as you think about eliminating pests.
Okay. Yanni.
Thank you. Just want to really speak to 2 of the amendments that I've put forward and urge you to support them. And I do just want to comment on the one around the street art. I still remember when my community board was asked to fund the first street art program in Christchurch shortly after the earthquake. And I know that some people were quite reluctant at the time, thinking that we were just funding a bunch of graffiti. But actually, one of the most moving experiences in our city post-earthquake was the exhibition they had at the Canterbury Museum, the original street art exhibition that they had with well-known artists coming to Christchurch and collaborating with local people to really put on a very, very impressive display. And it was really from that point on that the city, I think, embraced street art as being a real positive for our creative expression. And if you look at a number of things that have been assessed in terms of Christchurch post-earthquake, what you find is that that creative expression put us on the heart of things like the Lonely Planet, of international tourism and international media. So I'm really supportive of doing that. I think the pathways for those young people in that space that we supported by that program will have amazing impact for us as a city. The second point I want to just talk on is skateboarding, because this city was actually one of the leaders in skateboarding all around the world. Councils were banning skateboarding, and I was fortunate enough to be here at the time. And the first radio interview I ever did was on BBC World, who rang up from the UK, so interested that Christchurch as a city, instead of banning skating,
we actually had the resolve to support skateboarding as a positive in our community and agree to look at building Washington Way and come up with a strategy and do some other really positive things. It was we were far ahead of our time as a city by not just banning skating, but actually providing facilities for people to skate. And over time, we've had some of the best facilities, but the world has overtaken us with it becoming an Olympic sport, which has meant other cities around New Zealand have actually progressed a lot further than we have. If you go down to the skate park, and I spent some time at the skate park talking to the skaters, it is a real strong sense of community. It is intergenerational. It is young people, it is older people, it is middle-aged people coming together to celebrate something that they're incredibly passionate about, which is skating, doing the tricks and looking after one another. And I think the least we can do as a city is to look at our investment in those facilities to make sure that we can give young people some of the best opportunities to train, especially now that it's an Olympic sport. So please support it. I would have loved to have put money on budget today, but I recognise we've got a process to go through. And finally, I'd just say, for those that are worried about the screen grant, just read the review that Christchurch and NZ have done. They've actually summarised it really, really well to say basically that it has had a really positive impact. And they say it's really sad that without the significant, with the reduction in the funding, the economic activity within the region and momentum in the industry would stall. So I've put it on to keep it going rather than to have it stop.
Okay, we've had a lot of positive debatey stuff already, so I'm going to start doing these votes. Hey? Yeah, and that's number 4. Okay, so what we've got to watch is a little bit of is a lot of these that we're going to vote on now